Constant data breaches, ransomware as a service, escalating natural disasters, unstable political climates, and AI powered scams. The new wave of threats are here, and they are not forgiving. Now, for me to explain how you can best protect yourself, I need to give you some context to the complexity of your situation as a small to medium sized business, or at this point, even just a person with a bank account. Most of the time, a lot of money and man hours are spent on prevention of incidents. Now, investing in that isn't unwise. The best incident response time that you could have is none because there aren't any incidents. But having good enough forward security to never have an incident is progressing from very optimistic to flatly delusional the way that things are headed. Also, a data risk and therefore a business risk does not have to be ransomware. Sometimes it could be an internal mistake or a hurricane or hardware failure stemming from an in-office accident. BCDR, or business continuity and disaster recovery, is for everything after the bad thing has already happened. So while preventing an incident altogether is a valued part of keeping things operational, BCDR is actually a much larger set of needed procedures and contingencies, and yet it's often neglected. 75% of small businesses say that they would not survive a ransomware hit. 51% of ransomware victims pay the ransom. And of those victims that pay the ransom, it's not exactly known what percentage of them get their data back. There's been several studies, and the estimation is somewhere between 10 and 30%. And as a consultant, I am about to commit a business cardinal sin. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to never be a part of those percentages. There's not enough time for me to tell you every single thing that you should be doing to make data recovery simple to execute and seamless, to the point that your colleagues or customers don't even know that it was ever missing, but I can give you the must-haves, the bare necessities to make sure that recovery is always possible. When we're talking about ensuring recovery in the case of a data loss scenario, we're preparing responses to 4 sets of possibilities. External threats. This is scammers, cryptoware, APTs, really some combination of those things. Internal threats, mistakes, misconfigurations, or disgruntled employees. Physical disaster, be it localized like a fire or a gas leak, or environmental, like a hurricane or a much larger fire, or hardware failure, your enterprise storage, your server systems, your cooling systems, anything of the sort. So the challenge is to build a continuity and recovery framework that accommodates for all of these possibilities while simultaneously keeping in mind cost, so you don't prepare so hard that you lose your profit, and sprawl, so your recovery playbook isn't 10,000 pages long. Now, overarchingly, what you need is this: a documented DR plan. This is a written and reviewed playbook of how to respond to incidents of different magnitudes. Recovery objectives. You need clear RTOs and RPOs for each production system or application, along with consistent and automated testing procedures and simulated or live recovery exercises. And at the base IT level, you need backup and restore procedures. These also need to be documented and monitored. And of course, you need audit trails for all the things that I just mentioned. You need versions of your recovery procedures, and you need a repository to keep all of that information organized. But within those things, these are the absolute essentials to make sure that you never fully lose data. Again, we're talking minimums of protection here. This isn't about optimization or convenience. This is what you must have in place to never be paying a ransom or losing data in some other way. Your first point of focus, your backup environment, is exactly that. It's an environment meant to be isolated from production in the same way that you'd keep a testing DMZ separate. Obviously, it needs a degree of access to the production infrastructure, exactly as much as it would need to perform backup operations or replication or whatever you have in place. But there should be no direct access from the production infrastructure to your backup environment. Keep as much of your backup infrastructure as physically possible off domain. Your second point of focus. The 3-2-1 rule was the standard for a long time in terms of how to lay out your backups to make sure that your data was safe. You had 3 copies of the data, the original and 2 backup copies. Within those 2 backup copies, you had 2 types of media. For example, you'd have maybe one on a hard disk of some kind, some sort of local storage, and have one in the cloud. This is to prevent hardware failure of some kind from preventing restore. And one of those backups stored off-site somewhere in case your whole office explodes, taking the first set of backups with it. Now, while that sounds good theoretically, it does not cut it any longer. Today, you have to have at least one immutable or air-gapped backup, something that no matter how deep an attacker might get into your infrastructure, they cannot touch that backup. Typically, I lean toward air-gapping over immutability, but I am a bit old school, and that is just a matter of taste. And your third point of focus is related to number two. You need to test your immutable or air-gapped backups. This involves testing for both integrity in the form of like a health check and for restore time individually from your easy to access local backups that are frankly going to be much faster to test. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen people that only health check their local backups and just trust that integrity is good on the cloud side, or they never test backups in their tape infrastructure for, say, all because it's inconvenient to do so. But I will tell you, a prepared inconvenience is nothing compared to unprepared chaos. But truthfully, outside of some more obvious things that can be easier said than done in some cases, like actually make sure you know what needs to be backed up, those three things will make sure that you always can restore your data. It doesn't account for optimization or cost or downtime, or helping you implement everything it takes to be safe. But that's sort of the catch for everything that I've explained here. And that is where people like me come in. I make worst case scenarios, first case scenarios, and work backwards from the worst possibilities. Through this, I make processes that, short of the entire world being swallowed by a black hole, you will not lose critical data and infrastructure pieces that make you money and keep you in legal compliance. For you, that looks like this. I will map your entire organization and find out where your most important data is actually located for prioritization. From there, I'll design or optimize your backup infrastructure. What media types, where it's located, restore throughput, so you can recover as fast as it's possible within what your budget allows. I help you lock down and segregate your backup environment, so even if some APT gets a hold of your domain admin credentials, your backups are still safe. I help you classify your data and systems by importance and sensitivity, so we're not over-engineering the trivial or under-protecting the critical. And lastly, I implement rigorous and semi-automated testing for both integrity validation and restore time. Now that's the full scope of what I do. The consult is the entry point. You hand me the key details of your environment, and I show you where you're lacking and what to fix first. If you want more than that, if you want a plan that I'll help you build, test, and bring into production, I'll be more than happy to offer my services. Ultimately though, even just a consult to find the gaps can make the difference between being just prepared enough or almost prepared enough. And unfortunately, almost does not count for much. Book a consult with me today, and let's get you some peace of mind.